Yeah, some people have exit plans, a lot of times, I mean, you're told kind of by a mentor, hey, go into it with an exit plan, know what your exit plan is. I've got no exit plan. I live, breathe, drink, sleep, eat every bit of this industry. I love it. And I only do the pest control fertilizer part. I don't do the mowing. I don't do the planting. I don't do the landscaping, no cutting, no anything. But that part of the industry is so special to me. And my father's Polish. He's in it, he's been going strong for 40 years. I don't see me ever getting out of it. I know I got a Powerball ticket in my pocket right now that may change that. But for right now, I see myself in it until at least my 70s.
Welcome to the Landscape Cafe, brought to you with support from Fort Myers Garden Service, maintaining and protecting business and residential landscapes. Visit FortMyersGardenService.com or call 239-990-7494. The Landscape Cafe is a production of Pure Landscaping and the Niche Podcast Network. Learn more about Bailey, Katie, and the team by visiting PureLandscaping.com.
What is up, man?
Doing, man. How you doing?
Rocking and rolling.
Well, thank you for having me on here. I'm excited to join the conversation and be a part of it.
For sure, man. I definitely wanted to have you a part of it. I look up to you a lot as far as like in our day-to-day business. I really don't know that much about the fertilizer part. I'm learning and I understand quite a bit about like the compost and the pH levels and how to retain the fertilizer. We make sure we put in compost with all of our jobs at Pier. But as far as like understanding all the chemicals and when to apply, when not to apply, all the laws, and it's way over my head. So I look up to you guys a lot in that. So that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on and just talk, because I think in this conversation, I'll learn a lot. And I also think a lot of our guests will too, just understanding what goes on additional to the normal maintenance of a landscape. I think for the cost of fertilizer and how much the value of it, how much it adds up to implement into the landscape. Let me rephrase that. How much value and how much impact it has on your landscape, I feel like it's very affordable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I feel like with your landscaper, with like us coming each time, that is the majority of the expense. I feel like that's way more than the fertilizer is itself. But the fertilizer provides just so much value. If you don't have that key part, you're missing out on a ton. I feel like that's super, super important. But cool.
Yeah. So, fertilizer costs a lot, but compared to your labor number in your field, your labor number and gas is like what you majorly look at. For us, fertilizers, 30-40% of costs for our company, so it's a big. So for you guys, maybe, labor is, say 80 or 70 and equipment's, 20 and gas is 10, for us, it's, chemical 20%, fertilizer, 30-40%, and then labor, and gas and all the other stuff.
Right. Gosh, that's expensive. That's a totally different ballgame than what I'm used to.
Yeah. So it's a different dynamic. I mean, it's hard to figure it out. It really is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. How do you do you buy the fertilizer in bulk? Cause I know you charge very fair, for your services. And that's one of the reasons why I love to use you. You're very fair price, but you're also very, very quality. You're not cheap, but you're very, very value efficient, I would say. How do you keep your costs so fair?
Yeah, well, you have to be efficient at what you do. You have to have a good program. You guys have to know what they're doing at the property when they show up. They've got to leave early, they've got to come back late, and they've got to really have that that blueprint program, that you have, that everyone's familiar with it and they're rolling. Because if you have uncertainty on a job site, you guys don't know what they're doing and they're wasting time, then you're gonna have a lot of wasted time. You've got to be efficient. So, I mean, we've got gas tanks at the shop, so that, guys don't waste time at gas stations. Each home in a day matters. And if one team or every team can get done with 3 or 4 or 5 more in a day, it just adds that much efficiency onto the day, which allows our price point to be less. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into where our price point's at, which is, from what I know and talking to people in the industry, is we're a value-centric price point, and we do a really good job, and we do what we say we're going to do. We're not the type of company that you're going to, I mean, sometimes we are, but we're not the type of company that you're just going to give us for one house, $5,000 a year. And, and it's, I mean, I have some of these. I'm not saying that we can't be that. I mean, I have about 10 of these homes that everything's all included, but there's some companies that is exactly what they do 100% of the time is give me the lump sum, everything's covered. And so we're not, generally we're not that for a lot of our clients. We're a value-centric company, and we provide a really good, an unbelievable systems, an unbelievable program for people for a competitive price with a national competitor.
Yeah, that's incredible. Something that you've taught me a lot is systems. It was so generous of you to invite Katie, my wife, and I down to your office, right where you're sitting now, man, where you're sitting. And you taught us how to use these systems, how to leverage these different strategies and tactics without going into too much details. But you did go into a ton of detail and explained all of that.
Yeah, of course.
Like, oh my gosh, man. I mean, you definitely helped us save, because it's really a challenge. Like, the cost of living nowadays is rising so aggressively. So how can I retain talent? How can I retain good people? And one of the only ways you can do is you can pay them emotionally. So make sure you're supporting them. You're there for them. There's emotional income. And then there's also obviously financial income, which is, you can't overlook. That needs to be high. That they have to have good income. And for us to offer our services to companies that are not, or to not do like a ton of bulk work, you have to be able to be right in that value-centric area that we're talking about. And you have to be efficient, because if you're inefficient and you have a small company and you're paying your guys really well, your prices are going to be outrageous if you don't have everything down to a science. But from the systems that you've actually taught us, we've implemented with Pure Landscaping and Fort Myers Garden Service, is we've implemented those systems, and now we can charge what we believe is a fair rate, and we can give that customer an amazing value with technicians that want to be there. They want to do a good job. They want to make sure that customer is truly happy, and they're okay if we made an accident and the customer calls us back. Our guys don't have a bad attitude about it. They're like, hey, oops, I accidentally made a mistake. Let's go right back out to Miss Jones. Let's tweak that. No extra cost, right away next day. You know what I mean? Those types of things. Yeah. And man, those systems that you helped teach us and help us implement into our business have been so transformational for us. And we've been super grateful for that. You're doing that on quite a bigger scale than we are. And it's impressive, and something that I was just so curious about, because ever since I started, I'm always so driven on quality. Okay, everything's got to be quality. I'm like, Jeff, how are you doing this on the scale that you're doing it, but still doing it quality? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, how are you doing that small business feel, but you are kicking butt? I mean, you're serving so many clients. Oh my gosh, man, those tricks and systems that you have. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know of any other company that are utilizing the new technology. We are zero other companies are zero. It's unbelievable.
I figured it out, and it took years of thinking and tweaking and trying to figure out, how can I be a small business owner that's accessible,
right,
that's rapid response, we're responsible, resourceful, and then how can I make that scale,
right,
and get
right,
and I mean, a lot of people have no clue, to the size that we are, number one, and other people have no clue that that we even service the property sometimes. That's how big we are. I mean, yeah, I was talking to a person at a Halloween event the other day, and I said, "Where do you live?" And they said, "A community." I said, "Oh, I do your lawn."
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's awesome.
They have no clue, because I told them my company name, and they said, "No, we've never heard of you." And I said, "Where do you live?" "Oh, this community." "Oh, I do your lawn. I've been doing it for a while." "Huh?"
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. That is awesome. What has been, well, let me ask you this. Where did Terra Garden Solutions come from? What is that name? Where did it come from? What does it mean?
Yeah, so the garden is just a symbol to my dad. My dad owns Garden Masters up in Sarasota, and that's where I got my start. And then
Awesome.
We ended up picking up some contracts down here. And he said to me, "Hey, Jeff, we're picking up some contracts down in Naples area." And I was living in Venice at the time. And and he said, "Or, we could, maybe if you want to start like a branch in Orlando or something." And, I'm 23, 24. And all right, yeah, I want to go to Orlando. There's a lot of girls in Orlando, And he said, "You're going to go to Naples because I already picked up these accounts. I need someone to do it." And I said, "All right." So I went down to Naples, and then that's how I got my start. I started knocking on doors after that. I was like servicing these communities, and I knocked on 10,000 doors a year for about 4 straight years there. And then just told people I could make grass green, and I just kind of did it. But yeah, man, that was a real trip. And now it's a completely different ballgame where we're at, with how time's gone on and how the industry's changed a lot, and then how systems have changed a lot in everything that we do.
That's incredible. So you probably learned a ton from your father, and probably a lot of the old school stuff that I learned from some other mentors of mine that were much more ahead of me, but also to take your younger mind, basically more technology prone mind, and use your dad's business models, use your dad's stuff, and then grow your own branch on top of that and mend those together, man. It's like it's like a super business, man. That's amazing. Yeah. There's so much value that those customers are getting, that your company as a whole, like if you weren't in your company pumping that value and that knowledge into it day in, day out like you are, wouldn't be the company that it is. But it's pretty incredible that you're able to take all that stuff that you learned from your father and his business and basically grow to where you are now. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm using, a lot of his knowledge that he's given me through 40 years of experience in the industry. And then kind of how I think about it is, you think about years of experience. How many years of experience does someone have? And sometimes I feel like that's a shoddy number to go off of. For instance, if there's a one truck guy, he's got 300 accounts, and that's his he's got 15 years experience with his 300 accounts. Well, 15 times 300 is I don't know, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. So 15 times 300 is 4,500. So he's got, to me, that's 4,500 accounts over 15 years that he's got experience with. And then when I think about, the experience that I've gotten from my dad and, through my own company, and you talk about, my dad's company is pretty big. He's got over 25,000 accounts he services monthly. For us, we've got 13,000 accounts that we service monthly. So for me, for someone to have 300 accounts, and it would take them 40 years to get 13,000 accounts worth of experience. And I'm talking dealing with high level horticultural problems. I'm talking every month over 200 new installs of sod that you have to manage. And I mean, sod from different sod companies, from different parts of the sod field, different types of sod. The type of sod that goes in changes. You have Pro Vista, you got your blue, whatever it is. And, so these things change over time, and you're dealing with a lot of things first when you're kind of in the capacity that I'm at, is you're dealing with the Pro Vista initially, whenever it came out, 10 years ago or whatever. And so by the time it's 10 years later, you're super well versed in it, while a lot of people are just figuring it out that it's a thing,
Right.
So,
right.
And so it puts me kind of, and my company kind of, in the lead for anything, really technical problems that, are really hard to figure out. And on top of that, I still don't know everything, even though we have all this experience. There is so much changing. New viruses, new bacteria, your nematodes, you got new fungi, new, and but you have to have someone to rely on in those moments that you don't know the answer, or that maybe you're not trusted to know that answer. Right. So you have a property manager that maybe is a skeptic, thinks that someone else knows everything and you don't, because maybe there's some bias there, and maybe they want their sister's husband's this guy, and he's a very trusted advocate for something else. And so in those moments, you have to have a team member, not a team member, you need to have someone unbiased who's going to come in and confirm the God's honest truth. You don't need them to confirm what you say.
Right.
You just need to, what is the solution? For us, we use Lynn Griffith a lot. Lynn Griffith has been fantastic because he's one of the top horticulturists in the world. He lives on the other coast. He has a very value-centric price, and he deals with top. If you could catch him, because he's in the Kingdom of Thailand, he's with Amazon, he's in Texas doing nurseries. I mean, you catch him here for a week or a weekend, and you pull him over to this coast, to the Southwest Florida, and have some jobs lined up for him to look at. He'll do it. He'll do an excellent job. He'll write your reports, and you will look like not a joke company, but a company that actual solutions from someone who is super smart, an author, and who's brilliant. And guess what? That sister's husband, the property manager's sister's husband, is no longer a problem. Because not only have they either been proven correct or not, or you've been proven correct or not, it's not about that. It's about finding exactly what's wrong with the property and solving that exact problem. So,
right. That's awesome. So that brings up a good point. So there's so many issues, so many issues that can happen to turf. What do you say when a customer's like, there's something happening in their front yard and they're like, it's chinch bugs. I know it is. And then you say, hey, no, it's something else. I mean, are customers usually pretty flexible and saying, oh, okay? Because I know there's a lot of guys that are really, prideful in their yards, which is good. I mean, I totally can understand that. But have you had an issue with a lot of customers kind of trying to push you back and say, hey, no, it's not this, but really when you know what it is?
Yeah, so I really try to listen to the clients a lot and ask a lot of questions before even getting to the point where there's, someone diagnosing something. For instance, you show up on site and the homeowner will say, hey, look, this is chinch bugs. This is this for sure. I already know it is. I've already done my research. You guys just need to come out and spray it or something. And I'll just try to find out more information. Well, hey, look, I see this problem here. Let's take a walk around. And Lynn Griffith says this: horticulture is as much of an art as it is a science. And so you have to find out patterns in the landscape, if there's a brown spot coming off of a downspout, well, that, if there's a pattern, if it's on all the downspouts, and you had a pressure washing incident, Yeah. And so you have to really show up, ask good questions, understand that that's that problem, and make sure that they know, yes, I understand that you have this problem here. I don't want to speak out of turn. Let me have a look around first, and let me look at a couple different things, and then come back around to it. If you guys search for chinch bugs, search for chinch bugs. If it's grubs, look for grubs. The truth is that some of the easiest things is just things that we could actually treat. There's a lot of things that are untreatable that we don't have chemical for, that we don't have, we have resistance to certain things. So long story short, the hardest thing to deal with is things that you don't have an answer for. If it was as easy as fertilizing it, spraying with fungicide, and spraying with insecticide, and putting down some dialox for some grubs, problem solved. You know? I got a good story.
Okay.
So I went out to a community of about 100 homes, and they were having, over the past year, sod decline. And we've been on this project for 8 or 9 years now. It's an HOA that that really trusts us and relies on us. But, it's difficult to see that, there's some areas in the yards that aren't getting better, no matter the spraying with the fungicide, the insecticide, no matter, the fertilizer. It didn't matter. It was getting worse. And so in this specific case, the board was not happy with the decline. And they looked at me like, hey, where are you at on this? What's your diagnosis? And you got to get pressured. And, you look at it and you say, well, maybe it could be irrigation related, but is it really? No. And things just kind of didn't line up. So there was no spurge or weeds or anything in there. So I brought in Lynn Griffith, because the best thing to do in that moment is not guess. Don't guess at that. Because if you're wrong, you're going to lose the contract.
Yep.
Lynn took a couple soil samples. Lynn pointed out some things, met with the board, and he just really impressed them. Soil samples come back. Lance nematodes are supposed to be below, treatable amount is 50, whatever units it is. And they were at 350, way over treatable amount. And and obviously the next board's question is, well, why didn't you catch this? Why didn't you catch this? Nematodes are one of the last, boxes that you check. So, by the time I got to that box, I said, well, let's just bring in Lynn, because we've done the insecticide, we've done the fertilizer, we've done, and that's when Lynn discovered it. And I wasn't seeing the patented signs of the spurge, because my girls that were doing the weed control in there doing a hell of a job. So we didn't have weeds. So it was difficult to see that those signs were there. And so Lynn ended up doing a report on it, telling us exactly what to do, how to resolve the problem. And we ended up, doing that treatment at the frequency that he recommended. And next thing you know, 3 months out from that, they said, we want to do another test to see if it worked. Lo and behold, the population was decreased, 90%. And all the grass is coming back in and growing great. Their problem is solved. Their board members are happy with the resolution. And now they want to bring Lynn back once a year just to do a breeze through, and not on my dime, on their dime.
Right.
So, which is great, because it's just an ally of a solution, of a problem solver that, truthfully, a lot of us don't have that type of background in this stuff. And we're just here to solve someone's problem. And if we can't solve that, someone else will.
Right. Absolutely. And Jeff, what impresses me about that too, is the fact that most people don't care enough to go through that. Because I know at night when you lay in bed, you're like, crap, I want to make this board happy. I need to make this board happy. Not because you need the business. You'd be okay if you didn't have it, but that's who you are. That's how you run your business, and you've committed yourself to them. And you went the extra mile to bring Lynn in there to retain that contract. But I think it's amazing knowing that if we don't know the answer or needs some help to get the answer, that we're able to go and get it. I think a lot of this industry is churn and burn. Whether that's and fertilizer or the maintenance or the installations, any part of this business, a lot of it's kind of churn and burn. Okay, just on to the next one. This one's going to be a pain. And I've heard, especially as our area is growing, there are so many people, individual, whether they're homeowners or HOA boards, that are just unhappy with the services that they're getting. And I feel like there's not too many people or companies that care about the horticulture industry like you and I do. I think they'd rather, because they're rather just focus on the business part. Okay, whatever, head to heck with that client. I'll just go sell another one or whatever. And going that extra mile and is so impactful, not only for that board or customer that shows that you care, but also, man, that brings a whole, every time I go through like a challenge like that, whether it's frustrating or maybe it's not frustrating, but it's harder to deal with in my normal day-to-day schedule. I always come out of it growing, learning something. So that way, the next time something happens like that, you can bring Lynn in just like that or whatever it is. But that's something I think you and I have a lot in common of wanting to grow and not just trying to burn the next contract, but grow and actually know what's going on, figure out the issues, and kind of drive forward. So that's something that I love about you, man. I'm so glad you've shared that story. That's so awesome.
I don't know if it's pain or happiness that drives me, but I just cannot stand seeing a neglected property.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And especially when your name's on it, your name's on it, and it's like, oh boy, I better show up and make this happen.
Yeah. Like you said, to my name, where did the name of the company come from? Well, Gardens and Homage and Solutions is what I'm trying to provide, is solutions for people.
Thank you for listening in. Stay tuned for the next part in this conversation. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. And don't forget, the best place to rate or follow the show is at thelandscapecafe.com. The Landscape Cafe is a production of Pure Landscaping and the Niche Podcast Network. Learn more about Bailey, Katie, and the team by visiting purelandscaping.com.